This is The High Road with author and registered psychotherapist, Dr. Marlene Bizub. Dr. Marlene speaks to the heart of people who need to be lifted up and get out of the muck and mire that often accompanies major life changes, such as divorce or separation. Dr. Marlene will aspire to help parents of divorce to love their children more than they hate their ex, and to learn to take the high road. So please welcome the host of The High Road, Dr. Marlene.
Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening. This is Dr. Marlene and George, and you're watching The High Road on the Dr. Marlene YouTube channel. Good morning, George.
Good morning in our time zone, Dr. Marlene. Great to be with you again.
Well, good to have you here too. I went to a conference last week, and it was the Association of Family and Conciliation Courts. And I was there all week, and I have to tell you, I learned a lot. And after 31 years of doing this kind of work, I didn't think I had a lot to learn yet, which is an arrogant attitude or perspective to have. But I was amazed at how much I learned, which just goes to show learning is lifelong. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. And I've heard some things I need to ask you about from other people
Uh-oh.
as we go along and see what you think about it.
Awesome. Awesome. I love that. And then people can see how we are when we don't know what each other is going to ask us.
There you go.
Because to be honest, to people out there, we don't usually talk before the show. We talk about what the topic is, and that's about it. But I'm going to start off with what I call, or who I call, collaterals on a case. And for me, collaterals are step parents, grandparents, other close friends and family that are somehow involved in the case. It might be a neighbor who watches a child after school every day. It could be a teacher, a counselor, collaterals. But their role in these cases, and there was a whole session at the conference on step families and the role of step families. And there's just a lot to be said for the impact of collateral sources on a case. And you and I have talked before about there's an art to being a good step parent. And you, for example, and I hope you don't mind me talking about it, but you had one who was not so great, correct?
Absolutely true. My step monster, I call her.
Yes, yes. And that's so sad, but true. And it's what a lot of these kids deal with. And in one of the sessions I was in that wasn't even about this, we were talking about, the presenter was talking about how step parents can really either make or break the situation, and that often parents don't have problems at all until a significant other enters the picture, and then everything changes. And I was actually on a session with a dad and a child last night. And I say on a session, we were doing it remotely. And we were talking about how stepmom's presence has not helped their relationship, dad and daughter's relationship, because step parents can come in and just, I call it stir the pot, and just stir things up and complain about the child, or complain to the parent that they're spending too much time with the child and not with the new significant other. And I know you've seen this kind of thing too, correct?
Yes. And the step parent can be a blessing or a curse.
Yes. Well, I always say they can be the greatest asset on the case, and they can help me out a lot, or they can be the biggest problem. And they often are the biggest problem.
I
Yeah.
think one thing that I've come to realize is that asking parents to love their children more than they hate their ex is a very significant request. It's not easy for parents to do that when they're hurting and angry and feel violated. Uh, but the investment in doing so is worth it. The return is worth it. But we recognize, or I've come to recognize, that we're asking a lot of people to do that.
It's hard. It's hard. And speaking of collateral people on the case, collateral sources such as step parents and grandparents. And I do want to get into grandparents too, because I've got a grandparent story to share here. But often they have trouble loving the children more than they hate their child or whoever it is, their ex, the grandparents, former son-in-law, daughter-in-law, whatever it may be. They have trouble doing that.
Yeah, I think that's true. And all I can say is that from my perspective, the investment in doing so, in loving their children more than they hate their ex, the return is worth it. It's worth the striving to have that kind of a relationship, but it's not easy.
No, it's not. And what I have experienced with step parents and especially grandparents is their need or desire to put the other parent down to their grandchildren sometimes just overcomes their better judgment. They just can't help themselves. Like, well, your mother should take better care of you. Your mother should do, should do this or that. And they don't realize how destructive that is to the child. And they just can't help themselves. And they say that kind of stuff.
No, and I've seen grandparents both ways. I've seen grandparents that are antagonistic toward the case and the situation, and I've seen grandparents who are really just very supportive, very helpful,
Mhm.
offered their home as an exchange point, and so forth.
Mhm. Yeah. Yes. And I love those grandparents. But I'll just dive into my grandparents' story. I guess there's no reason to put it off. I had grandparents in my office a few weeks ago, and their disdain for the mother, who was their former daughter in law, was just overwhelming. And they could not keep their mouths shut. And first, they're asking the children, who, by the way, just for context, were 8, 6, and 4. And they're asking the children who their mother is dating. Are they going to get married? When are they going to get married? Why did she have your passports updated? How could she do that without dad signing off on it? Well, mom in this case has sole decision making. So she actually did not need dad to sign off on them. But the grandparents are asking the kids, how did your mom get those? She can't do that without dad's permission and his signature and all that, which obviously was not true. And then they started in on, well, where are you going? Well, who's going with you? When are you going? Well, he can't just, or she, it was sorry, she can't just take you out of the country without him approving. That's illegal. And use the term illegal to the children, again, ages 8, 6, and 4. And of course, the 6-year-old is looking at me like, what's illegal? The 4-year-old, it went right over his head. The 8-year-old knew what they were talking about. She's wise beyond her years. But the 6-year-old is looking at me like, illegal? And so then I have to explain, I have to pick up the pieces when people do this stuff. And you do too. People in your role do as well. Maybe not to the same degree that I do, because our roles are different. And that's what makes us such a good team here. But I know you've had to deal with that too. And I'm just going to let you share. What do you typically tell your clients when they have parents who act like that?
Well, I think we have to be counselors at law as well as attorneys. We're typically licensed as attorneys and counselors at law, so we have to do some counseling, not the same vein as a mental health person does
Mhm.
counseling, but we certainly have to advise them of the damage that represents to their grandchildren, and ask them to curb their comments that are negative, because the children identify as part of mom, part of dad, and so if dad's bad or mom's bad, then I must be bad too,
Mhm.
and that's a shame. That's very difficult. But I have limited ability to deal with collaterals, and I've
Mhm.
seen them all over. I've seen church members stir up the pot. I've seen
Mhm.
uh, uh, relatives and friends and so forth. And so we have to advise the parents, the client, to be responsible for the conduct of their friends and relatives and so forth, and help them understand what they are potentially doing to the children.
Yes, and I'm glad that you said that because that last point is crucial. I have parents who say to me, "I can't help what my parents walk in and say about her." Well, you better be able to
Mhm.
do something about it because if not, the court is not going to allow the children to spend much time in your care because they're not going to let these other sources come in and do your dirty work is really what it boils down to, because if the parent cared, they sure would tell their parents to stop saying things like that, stop questioning the kids, you know.
No, and I think I would speculate that there is blowback on the children when the parents or the grandparents are trying to recruit, or actually it rises, I think, in some cases to the level of alienation
Mhm.
from the biological parent on the other side.
Yes, it does. I mean, it truly does. And the stuff I witnessed a few weeks ago, I definitely would say rose to the level of alienation. And it wasn't just a maybe, it was blatant. And while we're speaking of that incident and those grandparents, a couple weeks ago, you and I did a don'ts, the thing things that parents should not do. And I think we probably talked about this during that episode, but grandparents saying things or other sources saying things like, "We miss you coming to our house. And remember when you used to come and swim in our pool? Don't you want to do that again? We would love for you to come this summer and swim in our pool." They live out of state. Dad does not have unsupervised time. And yet we've got grandparents making these kids feel guilty, saying, "Don't you want to come swim in our pool? Remember how much fun we had?" I mean, that's just so inappropriate.
Well, the sad part, I guess, about attorney involvement is we don't have much control over
No,
collaterals, and
no.
we're tasked with seeking the goals outlined by our client. So
Mhm.
if we can help them identify appropriate goals, that's invaluable, because otherwise uh, it's just a battle all the way down the line. And again, the parents are not going to litigate their way to a healthy co-parenting relationship.
No, no. And I guess what my message would be, or our message, I think, would be is for attorneys, because you have limited ability to address those kinds of issues, get a seasoned mental health professional on your case to help. If you know your client needs help, get somebody on the case to help, because then we do jump in, we see that stuff, we talk about it. It is our role to say something when it's not your role. Your role is to support and advocate for your client.
Right. And that is oftentimes, I dare I say it, might be at odds with what's best for the children, our advocacy for our client,
Yes.
because
And
that
even,
too that too can inflame things. I don't
yes,
think there's any way around it.
right, right. And even though you're, like you said, counselor at law, there's only so much of that counseling that you can really do. Because when your client just doesn't see the light, they don't see the light. And the person in your role is probably not going to get them to. Somebody in my role, that's our job, is to challenge erroneous thinking and unhealthy behavior and things like that. But all you'll do is lose a client.
Right. And
Yeah.
we have to maintain that level of trust where the client believes that we're willing to fight for them. And unfortunately, that is almost self-perpetuating.
Yeah. 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 It truly is. It truly is. Um, the other thing that I heard these grandparents say that I just could not believe was they're talking about their soon to be new stepfather. Do you like him? Does he treat you okay? And, that's probably okay. Do you like him or how do you feel about him? I'd rather they say, how do you feel about him? If they feel they have to ask them at all, not do you like him, or especially not, you don't like him, do you? I get that. I get grandparents who say, you don't like him, do you? But in this case, they were also asking about his children. Well, how many children does he have? Well, what are their ages? Do they go to your school? Are they in your class at school? Do you like them? Do you play with them? Are they mean to you? I mean, and before I could even jump in, we're down this trail, that was destructive. Because
Mhm.
that gives a kid the opportunity to complain about everything they might not like about their soon to be new step siblings. And also, it just creates the environment that this is supposed to be negative. That's the biggest thing. Is right off the bat, you're implying that this should be negative, that these kids should not like their new step parent or the new step siblings, and that there's something wrong or they should be complaining about them. And that's just plain unhealthy.
Yeah, I really had the opportunity to observe some grandparents who were very supportive, and
Mm,
that was a great experience for me,
mhm,
and I was very proud of them. Um, and I've seen the opposite.
mhm, mhm. So the supportive, I'm just going to put you on the spot for a minute. What did that look like? What did supportive look like?
Well, first of all, they even though their soon to be former son-in-law was not ideal in his conduct, let's put it that way.
Uh-huh.
Um, they did not badmouth him at all. And I think that was first and foremost one thing that impressed me. They offered their home for he was welcome. The soon to be former son-in-law was welcome to come to the house, pick up kids or exchange kids there. I thought that was pretty impressive the way they did
Yes,
that.
yes.
And so that was a good experience for me, a positive experience of grandparent involvement.
Yes. Yes. And you can't have enough adults in your children's lives who love them. And so encourage that relationship with the other parent. The other parent might become your enemy, but they should not ever be villainized to the children. And that's what I often see is they villainize that other parent and the kids don't feel like they can express that they love them. And the greatest gift I think we can give these kids is permission to love both parents.
Absolutely, that's critical.
Yes, yes. Well, it's time for a quick break. The time goes so fast for us anyway, or for me it does. But we'll be back shortly. This is Dr. Marlene and George, and you're watching The High Road on the Dr. Marlene YouTube channel. We'll be right back.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness: Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals.
Welcome back. This is Dr. Marlene and George, and you're watching The High Road on the Dr. Marlene YouTube channel. Before we went to break, we were talking about the role of collaterals in divorce cases. Grandparents, step-parents, it can be friends and neighbors and extended family members, people like that. And I have to tell you, I think people just don't think, like friends, coworkers, they walk in and they think you want to hear something negative about the other parent, and they think they're showing their support to you. And so they say negative things, and your children are right there and you don't correct them. And that's where I have an issue, is with those parents who don't correct them and just let these people say things. Hopefully, I would hope and pray that they would correct it after the person is gone and say, hey, you know what Aunt Jeannie said about your dad? Ignore her. She's just upset, blah, blah, blah. But we can't just let that stand. And like I said earlier, far too many parents let people do their quote unquote dirty work for them. And it's not okay.
Well, I have to ask this question of you. I've heard it
Yes.
said that if a child has even one significant collateral adult that's supportive and nurturing, it can make a whole lot of difference, particularly when they're in their teenage years, as to where they spend their time, where they gravitate toward good or bad friends and so forth. And I just wonder if how you feel about that.
I absolutely agree with that. I don't know where you heard that, but it is absolutely true. And what I see is the child will align with that person. That's the person who supports them loving both parents. That's the person who makes it okay to express how they feel about both parents, to want to spend time with both parents. You will clearly see kids gravitate toward that one person, and that will become their rock or their anchor. That whenever the parents are fighting, whenever other collaterals are saying negative things, that's the person the child will go to. And sometimes it's me. Often it's me. Like I'm the only voice in there speaking positive things about both parents and doing nothing but encouraging the kids to have a relationship with and positive feelings towards both parents. And I literally don't find anyone else doing that. They are all so bitter and embattled. And I will clearly see the kids contact me, they text me, they call me. When they're in my office, they ask to speak alone. They unload when they walk in. Can I have a minute? And then it just all comes out. And I just can't express enough how much that is true. Yes.
Well, that was, I had heard that, and I wondered that person could be, I guess, a teacher, a coach,
Mm-hmm.
a school
Mm-hmm.
counselor,
Yeah.
uh, and certainly a grandparent.
Yes. Yes, it can be any of the above, and often is all of them, not in the same case to the same child, but you'll see a coach in this case, and a grandparent in that case, and a school counselor in that case. And I utilize school counselors in these cases a lot because some parents don't have the time, the money, any of those resources to get kids to an outside therapist. But all kids have a school counselor and they are trained. They may not be well versed in dealing with divorce situations, but they know how to listen, they know how to respond, they know how to encourage and be positive. And that's what kids need. And I will often suggest that a child, even if they have their own therapist outside of school, I'll suggest that they go see their school counselor once a week or on a regular basis of some sort. It might even be twice a week or twice a month. But I encourage them to have that outlet to go in and talk about it. And that school counselor is available. They are free to the parent. And so I really encourage parents and professionals alike to utilize school counselors.
Well, what I had an experience with my with an adult son,
Mhm,
and he's in his 30s, and
mhm,
to illustrate how much parents sometimes don't know what they don't know, I
mhm,
heard him say that when he got I don't know, burned out or stressed out at home, he would often go to his grandparents' house, which was about a half a mile
mhm,
away. And I had no idea that he
mm,
had those
mhm.
feelings as a child, that he was stressed out or that he wanted to uh, get out of the environment of home. And so it was a real object lesson for me to understand parents need to put in some work on learning how to co-parent constructively
Mhm.
and learning how responsive children are to stress in the home and I guess surrounding those parental relationships.
Yes. Yes. And what you saw, even though you didn't know about it at the time, what you discovered was your son gravitated towards those grandparents and you didn't even realize it.
No, that's very true. And so it was quite a lesson for me to learn.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
I wish
encourage kids.
I wish I had learned it when he was a child.
Right, right. Well, and I was about to say to that point that I encourage kids. In fact, I'll say, who do you have that you can talk to? Because they can't come in every day and talk to me. And if they're older, they are allowed, believe it or not, they're allowed to have my cell phone number. They may text me, they may call me, they can ask to talk to me whenever they want. But I'm limited on time. I mean, I can't call all my kids every day or every week or whatever. And so I ask them, we start thinking about it. And I ask, who's the person that you can talk to? Who is someone that you can talk to? That you know they'll be positive, that you know they won't repeat what you say, that you know they won't try to get you to feel a certain way, whether it's positive about your mom and negative about your dad or vice versa. They just aren't going to get you to or try to get you to feel a certain way about either parent. And kids can usually identify someone. And it's beautiful when they say, well, I've got this teacher, I have this coach, I have this grandma, I have this, and they start naming people. And I'm like, wow. And I realize those children that have that many resources are blessed.
Yes, and I really owe a debt of gratitude to my son's grandparents for
Mm-hmm.
being there for him, which I never realized.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And kids are sometimes afraid to tell their parents that I talked to grandma about this, or, they're afraid to let you know because they don't want you to get upset. They don't want you to take that person away from them and not have that resource. But they're just often afraid to even talk about it.
Yes, and I think as parents, and I say we, I'm long past being a parent with somebody in the home, but
Mhm.
I think as parents, we need to be supportive of those relationships. And if grandparents can fill that role, that's terrific.
Yes, yes. And often they do. I mean, they're old enough and wise enough to realize that even if they don't like that other parent anymore, that they know the children have a need to love them and be allowed to love them.
Yes, and I've seen grandparents who have basically stated, we've had our divorces, we've had our fights, we've had our disagreements, we've gone through all that. We've even lost one generation, our children, so we want our grandchildren not to experience that.
Right, right. Well, and I had a grandfather say to me a couple weeks ago, because I said something about did he want to walk the child out to mom's car? And he said, I bet, and I'm glad he told me if this is how he is, but how sad is this? He said, I better not, because if I see her at all, I don't have anything nice to say, and I'm not going to be able to fake it. And I thought, well, then I don't want you walking the kid out there, you know. But how sad is that? That as a grown adult, you don't have anything nice to say and you can't fake it. At least fake it for the kids' sake.
Yeah, I really am beginning to realize how much we're asking of parents
Mhm,
and grandparents
mhm.
to curb their tongue.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. It's
And
like
it's
my mom told me when I was growing up, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. And these situations, that statement could never be more true.
yeah, absolutely. And it's just sad to see grandparents who feel that they have lost the upbringing of their own children, and therefore they don't want to see that happen with their grandchildren.
Mhm.
Uh, I guess it's noble, but it's also sad that they feel that way about their own now adult children.
Mhm. Mhm. Yes. Well, and what you'll see too is if kids have any resource out there that is a positive role model for them, you will see a better behaved child, more caring, more sensitive, more forgiving, more loving. You'll see that. It shows up. And if you've got people who are hostile and vengeful and vindictive, you start seeing that behavior in the children, you
I would
know?
imagine that the more nasty the relationship between the divorced parents, the more likely the child is to go down a bad path.
Yes. Yes, because they're angry. And so they go to school and they pick on other kids and they lash out at teachers and, they're angry. And so when they see that, kids are going to model. whatever they witness. If they observe us being kind and loving and supportive, they'll tend to be more kind, loving, and supportive. But if they see us exhibit hostile behavior, that's what they're going to do.
Well, and I think parents often are so enmeshed in their own anger and hurt that they don't stop and think about what are the implications for my behavior on my child.
On my child, right. They aren't even thinking about it. It's obvious because if they did, they would stop it. But I truly don't think they do. It's like you said, they're so immersed in their negative feelings that they just can't. Well, like those grandparents, I swear what I witnessed was two older people who could not help themselves. I mean, they just couldn't do it. And, you know, it was
That's when
not
you
the mom's fault that dad was in the position he was in.
that's when you have to get your paddle out.
That's right. That's right. You know, I do, though, take grandparents aside and talk to them about it and tell them that's not okay. Please don't say negative things about the other parent. But often the damage is done before I have a chance to step in, you know?
Well, and I wonder in terms of mental health profession,
Hmm.
how many mental health professionals or what proportion of mental health professionals are attuned to the damage done to children by conflicted parents.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because I'm going to get on my soapbox for a minute. If you aren't well versed in this work, don't take these cases seriously because we have just a whole, I'm going to say, flooding of therapists who don't know what they're doing. And then the big thing I see right now is they refuse to testify. And that's okay, I get it, but then don't take the case. We do the court a disservice when we won't testify because the court needs our information. And I understand that we're worried about being grieved and things like that. But we get involved in these cases to help the court. And so if you don't know what you're doing and you're not willing to help the court, don't take the case. But to answer your question or to make your point, because I do totally agree, and I will reinforce that 1000%, that there are mental health people who don't know what they're doing and they don't know how to handle these cases. You have to have some training in dynamics of separating and divorcing parents. Because if not, you're not going to do anybody any good. And if anything, could make things worse.
Well, and it's critical that we have a mental health professional who has knowledge about the dynamics around divorce and so forth, because the court often relies so heavily on the
Mhm,
voice of the mental health professional because the court sees that as the voice of reason and best prioritizing best interests of the children
mhm,
as opposed to uh, trying to calm down the parents and their behavior. The
mhm.
court will look at the mental health professional as the voice of reason, and they rely heavily on the voice of a qualified or experienced mental health professional in the case.
Yes. Well, and to that point, I have to say that attorneys who have mom's therapist come in or dad's therapist come in, and it's not a neutral, I don't know that they are the correct voice of reason because they're still going to be, even subconsciously, advocating for their client.
Mhm.
And I see that a lot, and it's like, that's not a neutral. If they don't know both parents, they are not a neutral. Do we still sometimes need to hear from them? Yes, but I don't know. And we could actually talk about this more when we come back. We need to take a quick break, but I have a little bit more to say about this. So we'll pick this up when we get back. But this is Dr. Marlene and George, and you're watching The High Road on the Dr. Marlene YouTube channel. We'll be right back.
Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality, but it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating? Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
Like it was almost instant, like I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. It feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of The Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on The Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Welcome back. This is Dr. Marlene and George, and you're watching The High Road on the Dr. Marlene YouTube channel. Before we went to break, we were talking about, and I said, I'll return to this discussion because this is important. And again, I'm not trying to tell an attorney how to do his or her job, but I think you understand my point and would agree that you can't have somebody who is only familiar with one parent make any kind of recommendation about what would be done. And actually, our statute prohibits it. The regulations for therapists in this state, anyway, prohibits mental health professionals from making a parenting time recommendation unless they are appointed as some type of evaluator, either a child and family investigator, a parental responsibilities evaluator, or something like that. But when you have mom's therapist or dad's therapist opining about how parenting time should go, they're not a neutral, and that's inappropriate. Would you agree?
Very much so. And I have seen a mental health professional who is newly frocked, newly appointed with their degrees and so forth, come in the court and just have a mess on our hands. There's, I think, lawyers, if I could generalize, we really need mentoring, some sort of relationship where we're taught the realities of practicing law and interacting with clients and the court and so forth. We don't come out of law school with instant knowledge of those behaviors. And I would imagine it's the same for mental health professionals. They don't come out of graduate school with instant knowledge of how to interact with the attorneys and the courts and so forth. And so some sort of mentoring or instruction is critical and absolutely necessary.
Yes, I agree. I totally 1000% agree that we need to have something in place where before a therapist is allowed to be appointed on a case, that they have to have some kind of training or mentoring or something. Because, yeah, if you don't understand this work, you're going to do more damage than help. And we're here, hopefully, to help the families and not do more damage. And people who don't, professionals who just don't understand the dynamics of divorce and co-parenting and grief and loss and all of that. Because as you say, well, how is it you put it? This is a
newly frocked professional or
no,
lawyer.
when you say it's a system of loss.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think when people go to court in a contested divorce case, they experience loss. They lose financial status.
Mm-hmm,
They feel that they've lost standing with their children,
mm-hmm,
and they come out of there shocked and upset.
mm-hmm.
And that is, unfortunately, that's fairly typical.
Yes. And if the therapist they're working with doesn't understand that, they can't really help. And you know what often happens is people going through a divorce are looking for supportive therapy. Okay, I get that. We all need some support. But by gosh, that person's going to do more harm than good if they don't understand how the court system works.
Well, and that's why I maintain that my best friend on a case is an experienced mental health professional, because
Yeah.
uh, I'm generalizing, but I think you have the ability to counsel and advise clients on their behavior and the impact on their children without calling into question whether you're fighting for them or whether you're on their side or have heard what they've said. They don't seem to have that very fragile trust. It seems to be a more easy flowing relationship with the mental health professional than the attorney. The attorney has to be so careful to avoid
Mhm.
messaging the client that we're not on your side, or we're trying to correct your behaviors. You're being wrongfully behaving in this case. Uh,
Mhm.
Mental health professionals seem to have a better uh, take on the ability to counsel clients without calling into question all those trust issues.
Right, right. And it just speaks to the difference in our roles. Like, I can be neutral, you cannot.
No, no, we have to, and we're required by law to seek the defined goals of the representation as defined by the client. So if
Mhm.
we cannot uh, uh, head off the anger and the frustration and the desire to fight, then that's what we have to do. And most of us
Right.
are reasonably good at it.
Yes, yes. Well, and I tell, the people that I work with that the other attorney is going to seize every opportunity they see to make you look bad.
Yeah,
I
there's no
tell them that.
question about it. We
Yeah.
we will take any small faux pas and try to make it look like it's a habitual behavior,
Mhm.
and the client, the parent, the opposing party is not trustworthy as far as child-related issues and behaviors, and we will
Yeah.
try to turn the telescope around and make each little mistake or improper statement into alienation and
Mhm.
harm to the children and so forth. And so that inflames those feelings of anger and frustration, loss, and so forth.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that, unfortunately, is part of the process of litigating the case.
Right. Which is why you don't wanna litigate if you don't have to.
Yeah, we
Which is
jokingly say never hesitate to litigate, but
right.
that is a joke.
A joke. Right. Right. Yes. Well, and to that point, I read 2 competing motions today, a motion and a response, and it was just astounding how each attorney, and they each did a good job, they both did a good job, but each one just twisted and turned the information in favor, of course, of their client. But with one, it was, a one-time thing and not a pattern. And the other, oh, this is the way this parent always behaves, and this is alienation. And it
Right.
was just astounding. And they both could turn behaviors on both parents to show it in a light that favored their client, of course.
Right. And as part of that process of litigation,
Mhm.
uh, I would surmise that it has to inflame people more than it calms the situation.
Oh, yes. Yes. You read this stuff about yourself, and yes, it's not going to make you feel good.
No.
No. And I would like to take the last, or winding down here, take the last few minutes to talk about something that came up in fact, I went to a whole session on mental health professionals being able to tell the court, if you will, which nobody gets to tell the court a whole lot of anything, but speak up if orders that are given to the professional are inappropriate. And what I mean is, and I had this happen recently, and that's why it struck a nerve with me. And when I saw this particular session, I signed up for it right away because I got an order and it said, and it's an estranged parent and 3 children. And it said that this child would have contact with the father in therapy by this date. And that's inappropriate. And we've got to be able to speak up and say, I hope they can have contact by that date. And I hope that I can get the child and the parent prepared to have contact by then that will be appropriate and meaningful, and that both parties will be where they need to be mentally. But you can't put an arbitrary date on therapy. And therapy takes time, and we can't predict how it's going to go. And so we as mental health professionals have to be able to speak up, because to me, it's unethical to let a court dictate that by this time you have to have done this. I mean, therapy to me just, well, it doesn't work that way. But what's your thought on orders? Do you agree?
Well, absolutely, and I think the mental health professional has a voice, uh, usually to the court. Oftentimes, a judge will ask a mental health professional or an attorney, "Is there anything I've left out or that I've missed or that I've
Hmm.
overlooked?" And that's invaluable. That dialogue between counsel and the court, and
Yeah.
that's time for the attorney to speak up and say, "Your Honor, we can't put a time limit on how this person responds because everybody responds differently."
Right. And especially to say, and they're going to begin overnights by this date. We can't do that. We can't do that.
No, and I think that that's unreasonable. I would hope and expect that most judges would understand that.
I
So I
would
would
think,
hope, yeah, I would hope there wouldn't be too many of those types of orders.
right, right. Yeah, they're not common, but you do see them. Okay, we are out of time. Thank you, George. This is Dr. Marlene and George, and you've been watching The High Road on the Dr. Marlene YouTube channel. We'll see you next week.
Tune in to The High Road with host Dr. Marlene and gain insight into how to rise above tough circumstances and learn the skills that will help you take the high road in your life, no matter what challenges might come your way, on the next episode of The High Road.